Hello then, Natasha Donn of The
Hello.
Resident, with your news review for this week, the 20th of February, 2026.
I know it
First,
passes so fast, doesn't it?
well, yeah, it was Friday the 13th, wasn't it? Last Friday. Here we are, a week later, and as you say, everything is happening. Or the time is passing very quickly. So much is going on in the world. It's quite extraordinary. So it must actually be quite difficult to choose just three stories to look at.
I guess it can be quite difficult knowing, oh my God, which one should I write about now?
Yeah,
Remember, we are dealing with Portugal, so that gets rid of quite a lot of stuff
it
to
does.
start with, because not a lot happens here. But there's still quite a bit happening here.
Yes, indeed. And of course, we had the most notable disastrous situation in these last 3 weeks, which is, yeah, I guess is the big contrast to what you're saying. Generally speaking, it's nice to live in a country where not much seems to happen. Then we had this terrible, devastating weather phenomenon. And it would be nice to think that we're getting past it now, but there are still some people without electricity and
Oh,
facing terrible
we're
difficulties.
nowhere near getting past it because we've got it seems every 2 or 3 days, they up the estimate of overall damages. And I think what I saw this morning, just in passing, was it's now up to 6 billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Prime Minister only said a few days ago that it was probably around 4.
Right.
So 2 billion more.
That is a big difference, isn't it?
That's
And
huge.
these are inconceivable amounts of money that have gone up in 2 billion in 2 days, it would
I
appear.
don't
And
even know how that happens. But
no,
anyway, then there was this guy who's the head of the mission structure that was set up to try and sort everything out, and he said it would be absolutely ridiculous, well, unrealistic, I think were his words, to think that we can do this quickly. It's going to take to recover people's houses. It'll take up to a year and a half, and he said, and we'll never get back to 100% the way we were.
extraordinary times,
Yeah,
and difficult to choose just three stories, but that's what you've done. And
that's what I
part of the aftermath of Kristen and the other storms that came is well, it begins as invisible. It certainly makes itself known after a while, but this is what the leader of the civic protection part of the government was saying. The rain and the storms are one thing, and the wind, because you can see them and they're quite immediate. It's the landslides that are a real problem, and we're seeing similarly coastal erosion as well, aren't we? That you're concerned about here.
Yeah, I mean, we've always had coastal erosion, but
Yes,
it's got much, much worse. And the problem is with the amount of rain that fell, even the cliffs that people thought were okay are, bits and pieces falling off them. And bits and pieces falling off a cliff can be fine if there's masses of space between you and the cliff. But I
yes,
mean, in places like Costa de Caparica, you can't believe it. There are apartment blocks built underneath a thing called the fossil cliff. The fossil cliff has just been just collapsing into their homes. And I think quite a few, I mean, they're talking hundreds might need rehousing long term.
yes.
There's another place in the same borough, which is the borough of Almada, which looked like kind of a poor area. I think it was called Ponta Barca.
That's
And
right.
these people know that they were in a dodgy place, but it's suddenly got, really critical. So hundreds of those have had to be moved out. But the big problem now for us as a country that welcomes tourists is trying to get tourists to understand that the beaches are much more vulnerable.
Yes. I mean, look at that
Much
picture
more.
there. There are some incredible. I'll put the link to this particular article into the chat, but there are
Good
some
idea,
incredible
because
photographs
yeah,
here, aren't there?
because a lot of that information I got out of Espresso, which had done a big thing on it. But I mean, the beach is everywhere. You've got to be so careful. People still, you see them putting their towels under cliffs because they think they've got a nice bit of shade or something. I don't know what they're doing, but it is the most ridiculous place to put a towel, or
Yeah.
indeed be.
Yes.
So people have to be really careful. Just judge. Look at where you're walking. Look at what you're seeing, because sometimes people are walking along beaches and cliffs have collapsed, and they still walk airily along, thinking, "Oh well, it's not going to collapse now," and you just don't know. I
You really
mean,
don't know. You don't know, and,
no,
and, and it's been made especially unstable in recent times. And as you say, this is quite normal on a coast, and you could view Portugal as one massive Atlantic frontage, which it is, where the
yeah,
sea meets the land, and there's inevitable erosion taking place. But
it's going
certainly,
to happen
with all the
exactly.
Yeah, and with all the rain just recently, this has kind of not turbocharged the situation exactly, but it certainly made things a lot more vulnerable. If you are a tourist coming to Portugal, you will see this. Arribas instáveis, unstable cliffs. If you see this
Yeah.
warning, what I think you're saying is it should be heeded right now, Natasha.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, you know, you have these signs up, and you have the people trying to impress the dangers. And yet, yesterday, even a young man went swimming with a friend very close to here, which is the West Coast, which is not a place to actually go deep anyway. You shouldn't go swimming here because of the undertow and the
Tides.
waves. It's a
Yeah.
better place for surfing. And he's disappeared, and they looked for him all day with
Oh,
drones. And I mean, it's just terrible. But I mean, he would have been seeing a beach that was wild. He would have been told, oh, it's not that safe. You know, this is the winter. We don't have any lifeguards. And they still go in.
you're
So
being
it
told
is
this for a reason, folks. Be very careful. And you'd think locals would know better. They often do, don't they? The older locals, but still, we have these terrible accidents and people disappearing. It's very deceptive, and it's not worth the risk, is it? If you
no,
just have your legs taken out by a freak wave hitting the beach,
exactly.
it
It's
can be
terrible.
devastating, as people find from time to time along the Portuguese coast. So be very careful.
Really scary.
Incredible photographs from all over the country about the
Yeah.
erosion of the beaches and the cliffs.
Yeah.
And this is all part of the same conversation, really, isn't it? About how long it's going to take to recover from this. And you've seen this for yourself. Your local beach is unrecognizable, isn't it? From how
Well,
it was
the
a few weeks
beach that
ago.
I take the dogs onto, I only just got back there because I just didn't want to go there with all the waves and the wind and everything and the rain. And when I got back, it most of the beach is there, but it's gouged out as if there's been a JCB just taking like over 1.5 meters of sand away. But then on the other side of like a little promontory, there's no beach, there's no sand at all. So, and there used to be sand for ages, and it's all gone. And it's just masses and masses of rocks, which will make the beach much smaller in the summer.
Good heavens, right.
Um,
And
and
will they be rebuilt? Is that part of what happens normally? Did the sand is
sometimes they do. It all depends on the damage and how much extent of beach, how popular the beach, and everything else. I know that there are, I think it's a program for sand replenishment down on the south coast in a set area, and that program might have to be extended. But the thing is, you know, with all the money that now needs to be spent on much more important things, after all, than just putting a bit of sand in a beach for tourists.
yeah.
I don't know how much priority they're going to give to this. I mean, obviously, it's very important because we've got to have the tourists have got to have their beaches, but I think they're going to have some priorities, aren't they?
Well, that's for sure. There's a lot of money is going to be required to rebuild and to remake Portugal as we knew it. And but it will be prioritized, of course, won't it? It's a
And
huge
the
amount
thing
of money.
about the sand replenishment is it doesn't ever last forever. Do you know what I mean? Nothing
Right.
does. But they say that even if you put sand replenishment in, it can be stripped the next. I mean, in the worst case scenario, it can be stripped the next winter.
Yes,
That'd be a
yes.
disaster.
Right. Okay. So be careful if you're near the cliffs. The signs are there
Very
for a
careful.
reason. Please don't get complacent, especially at this particular time in Portugal's history and with recent meteorological
Yeah.
events. Let's move on now to this extraordinary article about this TAP plane 30 seconds away. This is the headline,
Yeah.
isn't it? 30
Yeah.
seconds away from crashing in the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
One of the worst near misses for TAP, I think, and for that particular airport. Tell us
Yeah.
more.
And at the very beginning, it was sort of made out that it was bad weather and the pilots might not have been taking due care and attention, but then it sort of moved to a much darker level, and they started remembering what had happened to Ursula von der Leyen when she was apparently visiting Bulgaria and the GPS on her plane was blocked.
Really?
And they are saying that it is very possible that it was external interference.
Seriously?
Because
Right.
the alarm systems that the plane had inbuilt did kick in.
Yes.
The air control tower in Prague did manage to get the pilots to realize what was going on in time. And I think the pilots may well have been, they've given their black box to the authorities in Prague. They may well have been under the impression that everything was okay.
Yes, yeah, and they were. I think they were landing on autopilot. They were trusting the plane's technology, which works invariably, doesn't it? As we know, otherwise there
Exactly.
would be many
But if
more.
you've managed to get into part of it, you can completely, I mean, 30 seconds away from a crash. And that's a plane that's carrying in excess of 200 people, I guess.
Horrible to think of the possible
Terrifying. And then
implications.
it ties into what I was trying to say. Do you remember that weird time we had the podcast outside a market? And I said, I
Yes,
really don't think this is the year to be traveling. I really don't. You
right.
know, there's too much going on.
So, what do you suspect here? You suspect some sort of interference above and beyond the aircraft systems and the air
That's what
traffic
was
control.
being said on the television. I mean, at the beginning, this wasn't being said, but it is being said now. Whether that's just convenient because of all the other things that are going on, you know, whether it's just a line of thought, just trail, but it does sound possible, doesn't it? I mean, there's so many weird things going on anyway. You know, so many. We've got the, you know, the boat, the part of the shadow fleet, you know, hovering off the Portuguese coast again.
We'll talk
It,
about that as well. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
it's all happening.
That's why I'm wondering where you look first and how you prioritize the front page here. We're
You
looking at
don't.
the
You don't. That's
right.
the
Okay.
great thing. That's what I love about this job. You don't ever know what you're going to do from literally 1 minute to the next because it changes. I mean, you
Yes.
could be writing a really boring thing because somebody said, "Oh, don't you think we should talk about, you know, the crisis in old people's homes?" And you're writing about the crisis in old people's homes, and suddenly you've got a spy who's been selling, you know, secrets to the Russians, who suddenly comes on the news feed, and then you think, oh, this is so much more important. You've got to quickly get through the old people and get to something more
And you're joining the dots, aren't you, to the last Russian story that you wrote about as well, which we'll do in just a moment. But let's just dwell for a
yeah.
little while on the front page. This is how it looks right now, live on Friday morning of the 20th of February. And as you said, land, sea, and air searches failed to find tourists. Oh, as a tourist swept out to sea in Algiers. So please be careful if you're coming to Portugal. There are much safer and more enjoyable things to do than that.
I know.
Unrealistic to expect 100% storm recovery. Head of mission structure, you mentioned that as well. Cardiac patients in the north dying due to long waiting lists, and our favourite president. Well, I guess that's a fairly easy competition, isn't it? He's been in the role for I think 10 years now, and it's just about to hand over the baton to Segura. But President Marcelo on last official visit before stepping down, and that's a nice long handover, very civilized. I think a month long, isn't it? And yesterday's news, after all the rain and the storms, a 4.1 magnitude earthquake felt in mainland Portugal. Could you put that into perspective for us? I mean, some people are just brushing it off as, oh, that happens all the time here.
Well, unfortunately, I also brushed it off. Inez did that story. Inez did that story. She said, "Oh, I've done the earthquake story," and I said, "Oh, darling, I didn't think it was a very big earthquake." But I think the difference with this earthquake is that there were two in quick succession. There was a 4.1 and then a replica. And the replica was also 4.1, which is unusual because the replicas are usually less,
intense.
aren't they?
Yes.
The thing is that we do, if you go onto IPMA, which I love doing every now and again, you go onto the IPMA site, which is the meteorological, you know, authority, and then they have all these little headings, and there's one for seismic activity. If you go to the seismic activity, it is incredible how many earthquakes we have all over Portugal, and then obviously the Açores is an earthquake zone. I mean, the Açores, if you didn't have an earthquake, it wouldn't be a normal day. So
it's true what you're saying. Yes, a very good point. You know, some have the Gaia hypothesis, don't they, that we are living on we living beings are living on a living thing, the Earth herself.
Of course we are.
And of course,
we've got these two plates that meet, and that's why we have so many earthquakes, because they're always rubbing against each other.
Mm.
And yes, remember, Europe used to be all squished together, and then it, you know, we're talking hundreds of millions of years, then it parted, and now it's being squished back together again.
Yes, yes.
So everything
As we
changes.
speak, and look at this. This is the IPMA site that you're talking about. A nice little public service announcement here. Well done. On the seismic activity in
Yeah,
Portuguese,
because you can see, look,
sismicidade.
where there's a pulsating thing in the Açores,
Oh, back out to the
back,
Azores.
if you
Yes,
go to the
okay.
Açores, a pulsating thing, that will have happened in the last 24 hours, you see, because the
Right.
pulsating blobs show you what's happened in the last 24 hours. We're getting them all the time. And that line, if you take that line and take it all the way to the earthquake, do you see it's on the same line?
It is, isn't it? Yes, yes,
And
indeed.
that's the thing, is you've always got to look at the Açores, see what's happening there, trace the line, and then you can see where it's on the same fault.
When we look at it like this, it's terrifying. All of these
But it's
pulsating blobs,
life.
as you put it.
It's
Yep, it is.
life. And
There
I
they
think
are.
that's the reason. I mean, one of the reasons that the houses here, the house that I've got, I don't know about yours, but it's Taipa. I mean, we've got some cement in it now, but these houses move with the earth anyway.
Yes, yes.
Have you
There
ever
you go.
been, for instance, have you ever felt an earthquake?
I haven't. I haven't.
Oh
My
God,
wife
it's
used
so
to have.
fantastic.
Do you
I
like
was
it, though?
writing as usual. This is in
Yep.
another house. And I was writing away. And suddenly I felt like a wave, one of those lovely waves you bodyboard, just
Yeah.
came under my chair and passed. And that
Wow.
it was beautiful. And the whole house bloop, did a sort of, the windows went,
How
and
incredible.
on we went.
Wow.
And then I've
Okay.
been in another time when the earthquake, which was unbelievable. It felt literally like a massive truck had driven straight through the house. All the doors, all the windows, bang, bang, bang. And
Right.
I was unfortunately the only person who woke up. So I shouted a few expletives. Nobody woke up and I went back to sleep.
But it sounds like you quite enjoy this. Well,
Yeah,
let's face it, a natural phenomenon.
it's life here, you know?
Okay, so perhaps not to be too concerned, and the advice. If I go back to, it was actually Ines did write some or included a little bit of a guide to what to do. A lot of this podcast today, the news review, is turning into advice for
Advice,
visitors.
yeah.
Yeah, what to do during an earthquake. Although earthquakes cannot be predicted, there are steps you can take to minimize risk during a tremor. Inside a building, don't use the lifts, obviously. Take shelter under a table or a bed. Stand in a doorway. Avoid windows, mirrors, and falling objects. Stay inside until the shaking stops. Then leave calmly while being mindful of hazards. On the street, move to an open area away from buildings, power lines, and other structures that may collapse. Avoid wandering the streets during or immediately after the tremor, which some people would be minded to do, I think, seeking help, but don't do that. And while driving, stop the vehicle in a safe location, away from buildings again, from walls and high voltage cables. Stay inside the vehicle until the shaking stops. That's the advice, the official advice there.
Marvelous.
And
I'd be so confused when I heard that advice. I wouldn't know what to do. But I think I just want to run out into the middle of the open. I
right.
don't want to be under the bed, because if the bed collapses and the roof collapses, I'm squashed flat.
Okay, but it sounds like you quite enjoy this, and maybe the another part of this advice is not to get too worked up, because it's quite a natural thing, and the mini ones around the 3s and 4s, perhaps even 5s, are just a normal part of Portuguese life here.
Exactly.
Wow.
They absolutely are. But I do think they did say something about this one was bigger than, I think it was the thing that there was the replica of the same
What intensity?
dimension. I think they said that hadn't happened for a while.
Okay.
Whether that means anything, we'll wait and see.
Right. So but the point being, should get used to that as part of life here. And also, should we get used to the Portuguese Navy traveling in our waters here? What's going on with this particular story here?
No, the
Natasha?
Navy has to travel in our waters. What the Navy has to do is monitor all the ships that go through the territorial waters. And since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia, there have been a lot more Russian ships passing through. And the feeling is, I did a story on this years ago, and I don't know, I think I put a link for you in that thing I sent you last night. The feeling is that they are monitoring and the undersea cables of communication, and whether they're going to be sending down little, delayed
What depth charges?
Whatever, we don't know, because the Portuguese Navy are monitoring. But how they're monitoring, all the photographs we have are people with binoculars. Well, that's not much use, is it? So I don't know, because you never...
I'm sorry to laugh at such a serious matter, but you make a very good point.
But that's the thing.
The representation of security here for an underwater risk is people with binoculars.
Unfortunately, you got the wrong... You know what's happened with our website? When we did a migration, I think it was called, from one...
Oh, I see.
And so now we've got a lot of our old articles have got the wrong pictures with the articles.
Well, there's something for old time's sake.
Yes, so that picture of Marcel and Costa has nothing to do with the article. But yes, there's the diagram. Now, if you can see how many cables, very, very important, coming over from America. And they're all, we've got a lot connecting us not just to Europe, but also to Africa. So the great thing about, and obviously going into the Mediterranean and goodness knows where, it's a great place to send down some depth charges or delayed whatevers, or, I mean, they were talking about using dolphins, kamikaze dolphins. I don't know. You don't know anymore.
I can't believe this.
Yeah, you don't know anymore what's truth.
Kamikaze dolphins.
Yeah, they've sent dolphins down that have got, they're programmed like
such a horrible use of exploitation of dolphins, isn't it? I mean, it makes me want to become an animal activist when I'm not a vegetarian, but I do draw the line at kamikaze dolphins, I have to say.
But I mean, we just don't know the real truth. But the fact is, this particular boat is loitering. It was recently being escorted by a Kilo class submarine, which means it's a nuclear, potential submarine. At the moment, we're not being told about this escort that it may or may not have. It was meant to be going straight up our coast, but it's been loitering because of bad weather in the Bay of Biscay. We have to just wait and see what's happening.
There you go. This is one of the pictures you're talking about, isn't it? From the Portuguese Navy.
Well, this one was a picture I got yesterday without people with binoculars, just for a change. Because normally when I do these stories, I've just got two men with binoculars. Which does seem rather silly.
In roll neck sweaters.
I thought this might maybe looked a little bit more, effective, but it wasn't.
Well, it's like, can you see any Russian ships? Nope. Can you see any dolphins? Can you see any dolphins? No, everything looks fine up here.
You imagine she might be on the phone saying, did you remember to undo the dishwasher? We just don't know. But
or
it
maybe,
was just a photograph.
Yes, or a pizza. I don't know. I don't want pineapple on that.
Exactly.
Right, like this one, like many dozen. I mean, we are making light relief of actually quite a serious situation here.
I know. But the thing is, the situation is so dire at the moment. I mean, we've got. Do you remember we talked about the Azores? And
the
how
military significance. Well, actually, yes. But that's also. That could be what you're writing about this afternoon, Natasha, because the US are ramping up action against Iran, it would appear.
Exactly. And the Azores has been packed with fighter planes. We did a story on it. It's on our website at the moment. But the Azores and all the other military bases, in fact, they're talking about Diego Garcia and others. It's not just us. I think even the UK military bases. And again, there's this very difficult situation of how much do all these countries have to roll over for the Americans?
Yeah.
Who don't appear to be rolling over for anyone else. I don't know.
There is that, isn't there? There is that. It's like all of this, well, you need to pay more and you're not pulling your weight. Oh, can we use your islands and your air bases? I mean, the answer might be no, mightn't it?
It's all very, very odd and very, completely bizarre that everybody is being, yes, look, yes, of course, you can have your fighter jets in here. We don't mind you refueling things. But we don't know what they're going to be doing. And if they're going to be just, imagine that they're indiscriminately bombing Iran, which I think has massive problems at the moment, and not just these poor people who are waiting for the Americans to save them because the Americans said they would and then they never were saved. Yeah. And then they've apparently got no water. Is it in Tehran? There's no water.
Yes, and the Venezuelans are saying, "Well, hold on a minute. I thought you were coming to help us."
Yeah, no, they
Where
only
we
want the
moved on now.
Venezuelan oil. They're not in the
Yes,
least bit interested in democracy or anything like that. So it is a very, very difficult time.
heavens, yes. Good morning to you, Hugh, who's joining us live. We do this every Friday morning, a live recording. So if you want to ask any questions or make any comments, please do so now. And this will be republished on a Friday afternoon. And the interview that we do, the resident interview, published on a Wednesday afternoon. Before we go, though, Natasha,
Yeah,
you did make mention of this older article with the picture of the then
the
Prime
wrong
Minister.
picture. Yeah,
However, this picture is showing. We didn't explain earlier on. This is showing the undersea cabling
undersea
of
cables
the
that run
internet.
from America to Europe, from
Yes,
I can't actually see it now. Yes, from England down
yes,
to
extraordinary,
the
isn't it?
Iberian Peninsula, and the Iberian Peninsula down to Africa, then into the Mediterranean and goodness knows where,
And
Italy.
these are comms cables, are they not? They are internet cables. I remember being in Caparica or thereabouts and being told, "Oh yeah, this is where the internet comes in from from America." It's like
Yeah,
if you go down that little hatch there, there's a switch or a big junction box.
exactly. And
It is as basic as that, isn't it? Great big cables,
it
transatlantic cables. We're told.
it is as basic as that. And let's face it, the I don't know how much accompaniment on top of the ocean is going to stop them doing things below the ocean, particularly if they've got an escort of submarines and goodness knows what. So it's interesting that the Portuguese Navy is constantly alerting to the fact that these Russian ships are in national waters,
Yes.
constantly saying that they are monitoring them. But what kind of monitoring this is, you know?
Well, can you imagine? You've said it here in your earlier reporting. Portuguese Navy sent out a statement. This was back then, saying that it's monitoring the Russian vessels arises from the defence of national interest and the exercise of the state's authority at sea, and is a procedure that represents a strong contribution to security and dissuasion worldwide. Also demonstrating Portugal's commitment to the alliance's collective effort to maintain maritime situational awareness, presumably the alliance there being NATO that is referred to. But what happens to a memo from the Portuguese Navy and then the government that goes to the EU and NATO HQ saying, well, there's a Russian ship, we've seen it with our binoculars. What do you think is happening at a diplomatic level when that news is shared at the highest level? Carry
Well,
on. Very
exactly.
good. Yes.
Exactly. Just carry on. Because the thing is that when I went on to, I don't know how I found it, but I found some information about this boat, which the Portuguese press hadn't mentioned, that
Oh,
it's
really?
known as as the Death something or other. It's known as the
This is a
Death
cargo
Courier.
ship. Right,
No,
okay.
it's known as the Death Courier for its history of transporting military hardware.
Oh, yikes.
And it's also a dark ship, or potentially dark. It's a part of the Shadow Fleet. So what it does is it turns off its tracking system, which I think is called AIS. It regularly turns off its tracking system. The fact that it's now trackable over Portugal, you then think to yourself, well, if you can turn off your tracking system, can you also create a tracking system that is not true? I.e., can you pretend that you're
Oh,
somewhere
I
when
see,
you're
yes.
not?
Displace it to somewhere else, the
Yeah, I
messaging.
mean, you
Right,
just
okay.
don't know, do you?
And it just comes back down to how it might have been in the days of the caravellas, ships following other ships and just watching them. It's as basic as that, isn't it?
I guess
We
so.
can deduce from what you're saying there.
I guess.
Incredible. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for that spread of news articles that you've shared with us, among many
Lovely,
others, of
positive
course.
news for the week.
Yes, really upbeat starts of the week.
But the good thing is the weather is great.
It is, isn't it? Now, can we have a
And
weather report from the Algarve and hopefully the weather that will come up country from you? How is it this morning?
it's beautiful out there, but lovely and crisp. But I think it's going to get even hotter because I think
Right.
they said something about 21 or something degrees, which sounds pretty hot.
Yes. Well, certainly by
For the
comparison
next
to
3 days. And then there is something to do with a tiny bit of rain coming next week, but obviously it's nothing like what we've had.
No, quite. It's that soft rain that we don't mind. There's a little bit of punctuation in an otherwise beautiful Portuguese sun-drenched environment, which we're hoping to return to now, and the
Yeah.
worst behind us. Natasha, thank you so much. Have a
Thank you
great
so
weekend. All
much.
peace and love to you, and we'll see you again
You
next week.
too. Take
Okay.
care.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye. Bye.